Good afternoon. Welcome. We can see here colleagues from Astana, from Almaty. Welcome. Hello, everyone. We will just give it another minute or two. Welcome to our interview. We call it a EUROBAK Talk. This interview is recorded and we are broadcasting to Facebook World Monitor page. World Monitor is the magazine that has been published since 2006 and is official partner of EUROBAK, information partner. And you're more than welcome to share to your friends on Facebook so that they can join this broadcast. It will be recorded and be in the history of Facebook. And this afternoon, we are honored to welcome our speaker, Huseyin Ozhan, head of EBRD Kazakhstan. Welcome. Mr. Ozhan, you're on mute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes.
We welcome you to EUROBAK Talk. We welcome you to Kazakhstan, even though you have arrived in September. Time really flies. It seems like only yesterday we had our first meeting, and look, already it's almost 9 months. So you can definitely share with us the picture that you have of Kazakhstan over these months. I think they were pretty interesting, to say the least.
To say the least, yes.
To say the least. In one of your first interviews, you said that you look forward to working with the public and private sectors to promote green, inclusive and sustainable projects to address the major challenges of our times. And at that time, you were saying that it's the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemics and the climate change. We can say that there's another challenge, the situation in Ukraine that occurred, and that is a challenge of challenges. Could you please share with our readers, with our viewers, with our members in this direction on your strategic steps towards achieving the set goals?
Sure. Thank you very much, first of all, for your warm wishes. And it is certainly and definitely my wish to have a fruitful and efficient working relations with all our counterparts and also deliver successful results during my tenure in Kazakhstan. As you indicated, I started in September 21, and it looks like, you know, on one hand, it just passed like a blink of an eye. But on the other hand, there has been so much that went on in the last 9 months that you know, it feels like I've been here in Kazakhstan for a much longer period of time. As you pointed out, there are a number of different challenges that needs to be tackled in Kazakhstan. What I would like to do here to answer this particular question, but prior to that, I would like to say that I like the EUROBAK talks as opposed to the interview. Interview sounds a little bit more formal. Talk is where we can have an interactive interactive talk, which is, I think, a better approach, or you know, from my point of view. So just to answer this question. Just to answer this question, what I would like to do is I would like to start by basically setting up the pillars of where we would like to focus on in the next in the medium term, in the next 5 years. So I'd like to highlight 3 pillars here. We can call it priorities, we can call it pillars, but the first one is to work on fostering private sector competitiveness and connectivity. And in light of what is happening more recently, I'm referring to the, you know, more, you know, after COVID, and in the meantime, the situation, current conflict in Ukraine, the connectivity is going to be also quite important. That's pillar number one. Pillar number two is we would like to continue and accelerate our support to Kazakhstan's green pathway to carbon neutrality and climate resilience. Green is a reality, and despite what happens, that reality is not going to change. And we need to even more now focus on the green ambitions, and especially for Kazakhstan, which is a significantly energy intensive country, that is important to focus on the green pathway to carbon neutrality. And the third pillar, number three, or priority, is again, it has been even more prominent now, is that we will work to promote economic inclusion that is across regions, that is across gender equality, that is across youth. And we will try to do that, focus that through the private sector engagement. And these three pillars will be our main pillars that we will focus on. Now, I'd like to, go a little bit deeper into these. What do we mean by, okay, how do we foster private sector competitiveness and connectivity? Okay, there, I'd like to also touch upon the, three subsets or three objectives that we will focus on. First one is to increase levels of digitalization and innovation. This is a key. This is a key in the world right now, and especially it applies equally to Kazakhstan. So we will support digitalization of the private sector companies, as well as enhancing the digital service providers, digital infrastructure, either through our financings or through our advisory services. We will support the creation of a venture capital ecosystem. This is also very important. It has been tried before, but I think it is important to work on the venture capital ecosystem, to have a homegrown structure. This could be developing the regulations, supporting the incubators and accelerators, as well as the investing in the equity and venture capital funds and startups as well. We will, work with, especially Ministry of Digitalization, on the strategies, white papers, going forward, what needs to be done, what would be using the experiences that we have in our other countries of operations that we are active in. And then also, we'll focus on the advancing of the smart technologies. That could be across the municipal cities, across the transport, energy companies, and as well as through the digital twin cities concept. Secondly, increasing inbound FDI, foreign direct investment, expertise as well as standards will be important. So we will continue to finance both on the transport and logistics infrastructures, including roads, warehouses, dry ports, and especially including under the EU Global Gateway Initiative, which has gained also importance in light of what's happening now. We'll provide finance and advisory for transport logistic companies, not only for the FDI, but for the local companies as well. And then, as you know, we're also an important part of the Foreign Investors Council. So through that also, we will increase awareness of this. Then we'll continue to provide not only financing, but also the technical cooperation, even to the private sector companies, for them to be able to adopt innovative practices and new products, and as well as improved governance, which will be important, and which will be a catalyzer for the FDI component as well. And finally, I think it is important under this to talk a little bit more about the PPP frameworks. We'll continue to work with the government on the PPP structures that are at the standards of the international best practices. So this will help, if applied, this will help attract private capital and expertise. Again, under the competitiveness pillar, another one is the improved economic governance and skills, Especially this will be important within the financial sector. Provision of finance and capacity building. It could be on the risk management, corporate governance, including climate corporate governance as well, to the private bank, to the partner banks that we have, as well as the microfinance institutions. And then we'll continue to work closely with the financial regulator as well on improving the corporate governance measures and other aspects of the regulation. Also, we'll continue, especially the NPL resolution efforts, which we started 2 years ago. And it will be very important to come up with a private sector NPL market structure. Additionally, one thing that I'd like to mention is the money and capital markets, and also setting up the regulation and setting up the reference rate for tenge, which will be also important in the more volatile markets that we're seeing now. Trade facilitation program and other capacity building across the competition realm will also be very important. So all of this combined will help to increase, to foster the private sector competitiveness. And also together with the logistics networks and the infrastructure, it will increase connectivity. Secondly, I talked about the green ambitions. So here, again, I'd like to, just divide it into three aspects. Under the green, one component, which is very important, is the increased renewable energy. So we'll continue to work on improving the bankability of the regulatory framework for renewables in the country, and we will continue to invest on the renewable sector. This is which maybe we can go into detail later on. Decarbonization of the overall energy sector will be very important. So the policy development, especially via the Ministry of Energy, on the decarbonization strategies and climate resilient integrated energy systems. This is what I'm talking about is the gas as a transition fuel, modernization of the gas infrastructures, potential use of green hydrogen going forward to reach the carbon neutrality goals that are set by Kazakhstan for 2060. And then continue to work on the financing the cleaner and more efficient energy generation to reduce emissions and air pollutions as well, and facilitate coal to gas transition. So finally, I'd like to also talk about the decarbonization in the sense that we also have a green city program where 4 cities in Kazakhstan are under our Green City program. And through the Green City action plans, there's also a big drive to continue developing the cleaner cities with more energy efficient cities, and that will continue. So under the green, another one is to improve the resource efficiency and to increase the climate resilience. So I'll give you an example. We will continue support, for example, authorities in the development of the Paris alignment strategies, as well as implementation for the climate plans across the selective sectors. For example, the electrical vehicle ready roads, it will be important going forward. Green transport infrastructure, industrial and critical raw materials, especially in the mining sector as well. How to green these sectors is the question. So we'll continue to finance and advise companies, including the SMEs, on their decarbonization efforts and resource efficiency efforts, as well as the scaling up their climate resilience solutions. Here, I would like to refer again to the Paris alignment. As EBRD, we have now made a decision with the shareholder, as per also the indication of the shareholders, that all the projects that we will do going forward will be aligned, will be Paris aligned. So each and every project that we finance, we look into the Paris alignment aspect even more in detail. So I'll talk a little bit more about the economic inclusion angle as well, which is going to be also very important. Here, how to drive, how to promote economic inclusion, how to promote gender equality, and while doing that, how to support private sector by promoting the inclusion and gender equality. Here, I think most important aspect is to increase the access to employment opportunities and skills. So here, we will work with public and private sector clients to ensure that, first of all, their policies and practices are in line with this, and it promotes the inclusive and diverse workforce. This could be the gender, this could be youth and disability as well. We'll develop skill-enhancing solutions together with clients, such as the vocational training centers or vocational education schemes. That could be on the work-based training learning, that could be on the youth internship programs, and also establishing innovative learning centers. Supporting the joint public-private sector review of skills curricula and national skills standards, certificates will be also very important, including digital skills. So there are many areas where the certifications, where the standards are still not set yet. So setting these standards and providing of the vocational educational training will increase the quality and will increase the access to employment for the overall population. Second, access to finance. Especially access to finance is extremely important to be able to achieve this. Supporting women-led businesses through access to finance via dedicated credit lines, for example, as well as the advisory services we provide. Building capacity of financial institutions on inclusion, basically creating new market segments, developing gender diversity inclusion action plans will also help to raise not only awareness, but also increase the access to finance for those groups that are perhaps not as included within the entire economic system. And also, while doing this, it is important to also work with the financial regulator to promote the inclusive lending practices by DFI and the capital markets. Finally, I think, again, this is very important, especially in light of the January events, is one of the key objectives for us is, in the next 5 years, is as part of this overall inclusion drive is to reduce the intra-regional disparities. So provision of financing for businesses in the regions of Kazakhstan, both on a direct and indirect through financial intermediaries, promotion of corporate social responsibility activities in the regions to improve the local business environment, to include not only competitiveness, but also to inclusion across all regions. Also offering advisory services to SMEs in the regions of Kazakhstan. This is very important because we have, as EBRD, we have the two main offices, which is in Almaty, where I'm standing, and we have an office in Nur-Sultan. But we also have 5 regional offices across entire Kazakhstan. And these small offices are geared towards SMEs. And this will be important to leverage these offices to increase, to reduce the intra-regional disparities. And then, of course, financing of the municipal infrastructure and promotion of inclusion, inclusive urban design, and planning to improve economic opportunities in those regions will be important. And finally, again, I think, I can't stress enough, supporting the digital solutions will be very, very, very important. So in a nutshell, 3 main priorities. 1, increasing competitiveness, connectivity, diversification. 2, green pathway to carbon neutrality, green investments. And 3, promotion of economic inclusion and gender equality through private sector engagement. So I think these 3 will be, during my tenure here in the next couple of years at least, will be the key priorities as EBRD we will focus on. I'll leave it here for now.
Very impressive agenda. And EBRD has been in Kazakhstan ever since 91 or 93?
We are actually celebrating our 30 years of engagement with Kazakhstan
92.
this summer. Yes.
Well, and over the years, your portfolio has grown. I think it diversified, and EBRD has participated in some very important milestones of Kazakhstan development. And it's great to see that you continue doing so and supporting the government of Kazakhstan, and not only the government, but in a big way, the population of Kazakhstan. What you mentioned, the involvement in education, the involvement in development of infrastructure, logistics and inclusivity, supporting women in business. This is all affecting the simple people, the citizens of Kazakhstan. And over 30 years, you, as EBRD, have been a witness of the development of our country and growing together with it. You mentioned when you were talking, you referred to the events in January. And back then, in the beginning of the year, President Tokayev announced new goals for Kazakhstan. In your opinion, how achievable are these goals? And what are the steps, the real steps that are to be taken that could actually make these tasks be most effective for the country and actually happen?
Thank you, Julie. It's an important question. But I'd like to first say that it'll be difficult to comment on the achievability of these ambitious reforms. However, I can start with saying that the revitalized reform agenda and the impetus gained following the January events are evident, and it's remarkable, and we can feel it, we can see it right now. And so from this point of view, I think ambition is a key, and secondly, implementation is definitely key. In a recent interview, our president, Odile Renabasso, she indicated that we warmly welcome the reforms set out by President Tokayev recently, and of course the new Kazakhstan concept as well. She said, I truly agree with that. The emphasis, especially on removing the influence of the vested interest from Kazakhstan public life and increasing openness and accountability, are definitely vital, to advance the shared priorities that we have in Kazakhstan, and it will boost further boost Kazakhstan's role as a transport corridor between Europe and Asia. And of course, the role of private sector, increasing investment in green transition and creating jobs. All of these, I tip my hat off to that. However, it will not, it will not be so easy to implement those. Therefore, we very much, as EBRD, look forward to first learning more about it in details. Although there has been, quite a bit of an action plan that has been shared also by the government on this one, but also the proposed reforms. And I'd like to say that, as EBRD, we certainly stand ready to support the Kazakh authorities with first, further development, and second, the actual implementation of this. And as you can see, majority of these plans and what I indicated in just now about our pillars, our priorities, match quite a lot. So there's quite a bit where we can work together. It's good to note though, especially recently, that there are a number of working groups established across both government entities via the ministries and also via the Agency for Strategic Policy Reforms, which is overseen by the president and his administration. And as EBRD, we're also part of a number of these working groups and try to provide both timely and good quality feedback to basically towards achieving these goals. I think I can wrap up like that.
EUROBAK is also getting involved in these working groups, and we are also creating the ESG committee, which I kindly invite you as the EBRD to participate, and hopefully jointly we can make some changes towards the green economy, which is on everyone's agenda, like you mentioned. The green economy is a sector, or is it's a development, I would say, right? And it is attracting.
It's a new way of looking at development. It definitely has to be taken into account going forward. We can see this, specific implementation and specific impacts of climate change. So it has to be taken into account as a constant parameter there.
And through that, there's a lot of investments foreign investments in renewable energy sources that are being attracted into the country. And you did mention that EBRD is heavily involved in this. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on the projects that you think might be implemented and launched in Kazakhstan by the EBRD?
Sure.
And what the main challenges in light of the current geopolitical situation in the world, if any?
Okay. This is a topical question, of course. In any of these similar discussions, when we are talking, amongst investors, when we're talking amongst our colleagues, especially with other IFIs where we heavily collaborate, and also with the authorities, green is definitely in the top 3 agenda. Despite what's going on, it's still in the top 3 agenda, and it should be. So historically speaking, EBRD is the largest investor in the green energy in Kazakhstan. I'm very proud to say that. In 2021, at the end of 2021, over 40% of our investments during the year and our total investments were around $630 million, were in the green universe. Last year, also, together with Kazakhstan via Ministry of Energy, we also agreed to work together on a long-term strategy to achieve, which is the LTS, or the pathway, to achieve carbon neutrality in the power sector of Kazakhstan by 2060. This commitment was declared also in COP26 in Glasgow, and clearly demonstrates Kazakhstan's climate ambitions as well. And we are working, to continue this support on this. When we look at the renewables specifically, we channeled around $530 million for the investments of around 0.8 gigawatts of installed capacity on the renewable energy. And that is across 14 projects. So collectively, when we look at it, half of the Kazakhstan's installed capacity on renewables, I'm proud to say that we were involved, and we will continue to support this, and even with a more accelerated rate through projects. So, also you would know from EUROBAK as part of that, we had many international renewable energy developers in Kazakhstan, such as the UK's the United Green, the France's Total Eren, and Germany's Goldbeck Solar, as well as China's Risen Universal and China Power International. So in terms of future plans, talking about specific projects, maybe I can talk about it a little bit. We'll certainly pay special attention to financing green energy efficient technologies, that's for sure. One new way of doing this is through green bonds. For instance, there are potential considerations perhaps by KIGOC, or which is the national grid operator under Samruk, or Kazakhgas for that matter, which they should improve both their presence in domestic and international capital markets, first of all, and help them finance key infrastructure and facilitate better integration of these renewables also into existing networks. This is important as well. It's not about only the renewable energy projects, but it's about how to have a flexible enough grid and the transmission network, not only on electricity, but on gas as well, to support this. Because the important part is to have an optimum structure, and moving towards green. We'll also be mobilizing concessional green financing, of course, via our partner banks. And one of our important objectives this year, my objective is to decrease Kazakhstan's reliance on coal and support greater use of gas as a transitional fuel. Maybe the ultimate goal could be green hydrogen, but gas is a good transition fuel to achieve that. So we're considering a relevant project in Almaty, and I think it will be also a landmark project for Almaty, and all the citizens of Almaty will appreciate this. It's the Almaty's combined heat and power plant project, which will reduce, if once complete, which will reduce the CO2 emissions by 35%. And completely eliminate the sulfur and nitrogen, NOx and SOx emissions as well. We're working on these projects heavily at the moment. So we're also working with the Ministry of Energy in developing another 250 megawatts of wind auctions, hopefully by the autumn of 22 of this year. So in a nutshell, green is extremely important. It's in our agenda, as I explained in how we will try to develop this. But now I gave a little bit of examples where we will focus on, especially in the short term.
Interesting to hear about the Almaty project, and you said if it takes place. You think there's a chance it won't, or it just takes time?
Oh no, it's not done yet. So we're working on it. So hopefully it will take place. We will work as definitely with everything that we have to make it possible. But we never know. It's not, the project is not finished yet. So that's why.
It sounds so good and exciting for anybody who lives in Almaty. That's why I'm kind of grabbing and jumping on it. What are the other projects that are currently being developed by EBRD in Kazakhstan? In what sectors are they, if not green? There are other sectors. Let's remember about that. And accordingly, which industries maybe you are considering and looking at very closely? You're mute. You are on mute.
After 2 years of COVID, one should learn, but still. To answer this question, I think the best proxy that we can have is to look at the existing portfolio. As you said, we've been operational in Kazakhstan over 30 years. So the current portfolio, especially the projects that we've done over the course of past 5 years, is a good proxy of what we will do. Now, when we look at our portfolio, currently it consists of roughly 5% of equity projects, where we take equity shares in either companies or projects, and 95% of it is debt. So I think this will continue. But more importantly, I think we should look at the sectoral breakdown of where we invested. So here, I can say that roughly 2/3 of our portfolio consists of infrastructure and energy projects. And I think it reflects the needs and the economic structure of the country very, very clearly here. So from this point of view, I think we will continue to have our majority of our investments across the infrastructure sector. That will be both on the public sovereign, public non-sovereign, as well as private sector. I'll give you a examples. It's on the private sector, PPP. It's the Almaty Ring Road project, which was signed in 2020. That's a good example. Or last year, where we provided $160 million to the most anticipated FDI deal in the Central Asia region, which is the Almaty Airport acquisition. And that is also a good example of private infrastructure projects that we financed. Also, there are the more traditional roads or railway projects that will come as well, especially in light also of the current structure. I think further establishing Kazakhstan as this transit route, an efficient transit route, will be important. So from that point of view, infrastructure, it will be key. We talked about green. So the green also is one important part. So we will continue on the renewables. We will continue investing on the distribution and transmission networks, on other smart solutions, green cities, in-city solutions as well, and municipalities as part of the regional goals or the regional priorities we have. I think it will continue to invest on the municipalities, on the akimats as well, across all over Kazakhstan. This could be on the wastewaters. This could be on the even street lighting, in-city transport through electric buses, for example, or even other solutions as well, or other new digital solutions that will be important, and energy efficiency. So this mainly will be the run. Secondly, of course, through manufacturing and services and agriculture, agribusiness. This will be important in the next couple of years, especially. And these within the portfolio also, this consists of roughly 20% or so. So from this point of view, we will continue, especially both on the FDI side as well as the local companies. And by doing that, I think SMEs, albeit their role in the economy is not as big as it should be or as is desired to be, supporting SMEs, especially through our partner financial banks, is important. But I'd like to note here that currently we are able to work only with a portion of the banking sector. So we're working on trying to increase this possibility so that we can actually touch the real sector, the SMEs, via our partner financial institutions. I think this suffices. I hope this answers your question on where we would focus on.
It does. What is the total portfolio right now of the EBRD in Kazakhstan at the moment?
Sure. So since the inception of activities, we invested around $11 billion in the country across about 300 projects. Last year, we invested $630 million in 18 projects. And looking at the exact portfolio numbers, it's roughly $3.1 billion at the moment across, if I recall correctly, something like 115 or 116 projects that are currently active within our portfolio.
Impressive. I remember I was working for EBRD in 98, 99. EBRD was initiator and I can say maybe the founder of the Foreign Investors Council. I remember being a part of organizational team who did the first meeting of the Foreign Investors Council of Kazakhstan under the president here in Almaty. It was held. And both of us are EBRD employees. I'm ex, you're current. You've been with EBRD since 2011. How has your activity in the bank changed over the years, and how the bank itself changed over the years? Maybe you could share
I think this is the hardest
question.
I think this certainly is the hardest question. Yeah, if I'm very frank, you know, when I started EBRD, I set myself a goal. I said 5 years. I'll be here 5 years. I'll you know, I'll learn, I'll gain, and then I'll, you know, try something else. But it's been, I'm in my 12th year now. I joined EBRD as a principal banker in infrastructure sector. I used to cover transport sectors in Turkey and in the Caucasus. So that's how I started my career. And in the following 3-4 years, I took part in, you know, a number of projects in this geography, a little bit more than about a billion euros worth of projects. Some very interesting ones, like the landmark projects on the roads, tunnel projects connecting two, you know, two continents, and ports and airports, etc. And the more I get involved, the more excited and the more you know, stronger supporter of what EBRD did and does. Certainly, from that day until now, there has been a shift also in EBRD's structure. Green is, I think, one of the most apparent ones. We are now focusing our current 50% of our investments going forward is going to be on the green side. I think this is an important transformation. Our involvement in policy engagement has also increased over time. So this is one of the important, and we have expanded operations. So when I started, Turkey was the new country that it was the new country that it started. But from there, we have expanded into North Africa. Now we're discussing about expansion into sub-Saharan Africa as well. So this shows, especially our experience in the legacy markets like Kazakhstan, and what we have done here becomes an important milestone for our operations in the newer countries that we're planning to expand into and in our operations. Anyway, so after 3-4 years, I decided to stay in the bank. So I took up a managerial role. First, I was head of Ankara office, dealing with general relations between EBRD and the Turkish government. Then in 2017, I became deputy head of Turkey. And following that, I went to London. I was advisor to our vice president banking, who was overseeing all of our activities in 38 countries that we operate. And there, I literally fell in love with what we do in Kazakhstan and Kazakhstan itself. So I did work very, very hard towards that goal. And then as of September, I was appointed as the country head for Kazakhstan. And hopefully in the next years, we will have Kazakhstan as one of the top 5 countries in under EBRD operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've covered all the official questions that we prepared, so we can stop the broadcasting on the Facebook. We have the audience here with us in the Zoom, and those who are in the Zoom have the opportunity to ask questions directly to our speaker. I have a question here from Ruslan. Ruslan, you're more than welcome to take the microphone and actually ask your question yourself. Ruslan? I can maybe read it. Given the National Bank increased the interest rate 2 days ago to 14%, and some of IFI projects are local currency financed, and the current indexation formula is being criticized, how do IFI plan to deal with the deteriorating portfolio? And Ruslan says he can't, there's a technical issue with the microphone, so he can't read it himself.
Yeah, Very topical question. This is indeed extremely important, especially. But when you look at it, yes, 2 days ago it is increased to 14%. But where was it? It was at 13.5%. So right after, right in the middle of what has been happening recently, the interest rates as a defensive move was increased to 13.5 from around 975. And that increase was a significant increase. But when you look at it, overall economic theory tells us that it's the risk-free rate. So which means that the overall interest rates in the country has increased by that much, which certainly puts a big pressure on the private sector companies. But also historically, we need to look at some of the metrics here. Historically speaking, over the course of last years, there was a lot of liquidity in the market. And despite the increased interest rates right now, the liquidity is still to a certain extent there, which means that despite the higher rates, availability of funding, and despite, of course, the sanctioned entities that are operating in the FI sector in Kazakhstan, despite all of that, and there's enough liquidity to support the overall economic activity, and let's not forget we are in an inflationary environment. So it's only normal that the interest rate follows the inflation, or you increase the interest rates to try to curb the inflation. Where March inflation data showed around 12%. So as an institution that supports competitiveness through market economies, how would we explain to overall our shareholders, for example, as an IFI, and this I think applies to all the IFIs, if we were, which we can't, but if we were to provide financing that is less than that rate, on a subsidized rate. So I think this is very important. I think it will be looked at from an overall macroeconomic perspective, and with the fight of inflation. I think it is important to see inflation targeting and the impact on the effects from the national bank side. But more importantly, it's to continue the availability of the most expensive thing that is not available. So if the liquidity is still available in the market despite the higher rates, I think this will be what is more important, especially for the real economy, real sector. I hope I managed to explain it to you. Maybe one other point that I can say is that as an IFI, we are not a deposit holding institutions. So we go out either to the market or we go out to the national bank to source tenge financing, and we take that financing that we sourced from the market rate, and then we provide that to those projects that we finance. And final note is that around in the last 5 years, between 70 to 85% of our projects are tenge denominated, local currency denominated. Okay, I'll leave it here. But thanks for the good question.
Thank you, Ruslan. Hope you got your answer. We have the time. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to unbutton your microphone, or you can type it. I can read it. Anyone? Well, if we don't have any, there is a question again from Ruslan. Does EBRD work with the government on any carbon capture and storage projects?
Carbon capture and storage projects are currently, I think, in the development stage. It's the whole technology is extremely expensive right now, and I think the important part is to see if it becomes bankable. Once it becomes bankable, or working towards that, it will be important, and I think that will take into account. We will see more of these projects, maybe not now, but in the near future.
Well, Thank you very much. If we don't have, yes, we have another question. In what situation is the hospital modernization program?
I think this classifies into what I said about the public-private partnership projects, and I'd like to again refer to the Almaty Ring Road project. So, hospital modernization program is also extremely important. So we are working with Ministry of Health as well as the Ministry of National Economy on this one with one project that was actually showcased in late 2020 for as an internationally competitive tender-based project. So, however, currently we're still working on it. So there's a lot of back and forth, but we're about to try to push again for this project to come out, but it's still in the works. So especially I think we have to refer to the two different laws that are operational in Kazakhstan. One of them is the PPP law, the other one is the concession law. So some of the PPP law type projects that was done has received significant criticisms over the course, especially after the January events as well. So from this point of view, I think a very cautious approach to overall PPP program is being taken right now. And I think as EBRD, we're there to try to, show that a properly structured PPP will work. And this applies to the hospital programs as well. But we have at least one project that we'll continue to working on.
So, I see, yes, Nariman, I see you. You're welcome to.
My good friend Nariman, hi.
If of course, question not to me, but with your permission, audience may know some level of details why we, together with EBRD, ADB, facing some unfortunate developments on this particular matter, on the last one. Just for your reference, first, on the 8th of February, during the meeting of President Tokayev with the cabinet, he mentioned that 20 hospital program is having too much fat and unnecessary justifications for enlarging them. And he called for optimization. He said optimization of the program. And unfortunately, the message was about 20 hospitals, including one hospital in Almaty, one hospital in Karaganda, where we have aspiration to go for international competitive bidding. President Tokayev, what he meant is just to discontinue so-called private initiatives, or we call USP in our terminology, unsolicited proposals. So those private companies maybe indeed pursue some objectives of putting extra files or some luxury conditions in their intention to build several hospitals in other cities other than Karaganda and Almaty. So it was the interpretation. They approached us to optimize. We said, how can you optimize if the land is not allowing you to optimize, because land is already land. You cannot expand unexpandable stuff. We have a strong coordination with EBRD on that one, and we have one common voice that we support that better not to do with USPs hospitals, better to do through international tendering procedures or bidding, and that's all, and we stand for it. I hope I provided some contribution.
No, thanks for the value added. Exactly. That's currently the situation, which means that at least the projects that we are working together with ADB on that, it will focus on the international tenders. So we'll see how it goes. It will take a little bit more time, it looks like.
Well, do we have any more questions? If not, with your permission, I'd like to take this opportunity and thank Mr. Ozhan for your time, for the effort, and for your professional approach to looking at Kazakhstan and helping, as I said, to the government of Kazakhstan, developing reforms, developing strategies with your involvement, and also for contributing to the quality of life of simple people, of all the people of Kazakhstan. And EBRD has been here with a great dedication, working together with the country to make our lives better. And thank you very much for EBRD to be a member and a founding member of EUROBAK many years back, and for your ongoing support and involvement with the association. Wish you and everybody who is here with us today success, peace, and all the very best that there is available in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Honor and pleasure. Great to have the opportunity to speak to you guys. Thank you.
This will be placed on our website, World Monitor magazine website, and the link will be also available through World Monitor magazine page. And also we will circulate the information about this interview to the rest of the membership. So thank you very much. Good evening and all the best. Thank you.